Before The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, there was The Magician's Nephew, and it will captivate your family next November. When C.S. Lewis sat down to write what would become the Chronicles of Narnia, he wasn't just creating entertainment. This Oxford scholar, who had walked himself through his own dark woods of atheism before emerging into faith, understood something profound. Children don't need their stories dumbed down. They need them opened up. And in November of 2026, families will finally experience the cinematic magic of Where Narnia All Began, The Magician's Nephew. Now, Lewis knew that the best stories work on multiple levels simultaneously. On the surface, there's adventure, talking animals, and the clash between good and evil. But underneath runs something deeper, questions about creation, choice, and the weight of consequence. Grown-ups are always thinking of uninteresting explanations, Lewis writes, through young Digory's perspective, reminding us that children often grasp truth more readily than adults who have learned to explain away wonder. The genius of The Magician's Nephew lies in how it introduces families to Narnia at its very beginning, the moment of creation itself. Parents, imagine children as they witness a world being sung into existence. One moment there had been nothing but darkness. The next moment, 1,000 points of light leaped out. Now, this isn't just special effects, a spectacle, though the film promises to deliver that magnificently. It's an invitation to contemplate the deepest questions. Where do we come from? What does it mean for something to have a beginning and to be sung into existence? Lewis understood that children are natural philosophers. They ask why, not to annoy, but because they genuinely want to understand reality. In Digory and Polly's journey, your children will see characters their own age grappling with real moral complexity. When Digory faces his most terrible choice, taking a healing apple for his dying mother versus obeying Aslan's command, Lewis doesn't offer easy answers. He shows us that virtue often means choosing rightly even when your heart does not want to. But this isn't a grim morality tale. Lewis believed that jokes as well as justice come in with speech, and the story overflows with his characteristic wit and warmth. The scene where Uncle Andrew gets planted like a tree by well-meaning animals will have your children giggling while teaching them something about the consequences of trying to use others for our own purposes. They are not interested in things or people unless they can use them, Lewis observes, of those who practice selfish magic. A lesson that is remarkably relevant in our digital age. Selfish magic. What makes this upcoming film so exciting is its timing in an era when children are bombarded with content that treats them as consumers rather than souls. Lewis's Narnia offers something that's countercultural, a story that believes children can handle complexity, they can handle mystery, and they can even handle tragedy. You need not always be grave, Aslan tells his newly awakened creatures, but the gravity matters as well. The balance is what makes it real. Parents, here's what you'll discover watching The Magician's Nephew with your children. They'll ask you questions afterwards. Deep ones about creation and destruction, about the temptation to take shortcuts to happiness, about whether strength can be gentle and gentleness can be strong. Lewis creates what he calls a supposal. Suppose there were a world like Narnia, and suppose the divine entered it as a great lion. How would that story unfold? The film promises to bring Lewis's vision to life with stunning visuals. That first sunrise where you could imagine that it laughed for joy as it came up, or the terrifying beauty of the deplorable words aftermath, and most importantly, Aslan himself. Bigger and more beautiful and more brightly golden and more terrible than imagination alone could conjure. Next November, before your family enters the wardrobe, you'll witness the world behind it being born. And in that witnessing, you'll rediscover what Lewis knew all along. The best Children's stories aren't just for children. They're for anyone who remembers that wonder and truth are meant to walk together. The Magician's Nephew opens in theaters in November 2026, but the adventure can begin with the book tonight.